This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Hello fellow bullet journal fan, it's Erin here, and happy new journal if you're starting a new one for 2023 like me. My January 2023 setup is going to be all about pretty soft pastel colours. Based around this washi tape set right here. This is the elegant floral pastel washi tape set from the washi tape shop. I took one look at it and was like, yep, that's my January theme right there. This first spread is a cover and quote page spread, and I'm going to use this wide washi tape with the floral print on the pink background to line the top and the bottom of both sides of the page. And I'm going to be cutting the edge of the right page into a Dutch door, so I'm not going to take the washi tape all the way to the end because we're just going to cut that part off later anyway. When I was planning this out, I was thinking elegant, whimsical, and florid. I don't know about you, but the beginning of a new year always comes with some journal motivation that I didn't have previously. I feel like the likelihood of me doing a Dutch door layout for May or something like that is pretty low. And I'm lettering all of my headings for this layout in the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. I know these are a really popular bullet journaling tool and a lot of people love them. I found them quite difficult to use up until recently, and it's like something just clicked. So if you're also having trouble with brush lettering, persevere, it will get better. One of the big things I'm doing for my January lettering is a lot of flourishes, which is these curly bits on the beginnings and the end of words, and sometimes from letters in the middle that extend up above where most of the text happens or down below it. I've just recently taken a Skillshare class about this, and we'll talk more about that later, but I'm kind of obsessed with flourishes right now, and maybe you can tell. On the right page, I'm adding a quote for January, and I always put a lot of pressure on this quote because it feels like it has to represent a whole year that hasn't even happened yet, so I've landed this year on "May you live every day of your life" from Jonathan Swift, which just seems an appropriate year for adventure and seizing the day and all that carpe diem stuff. After the last couple of years with everything the way it was in the world, I'm ready to carpe some diems. And while most of the basis of this theme is from the pastel washi tape set, I'm also stealing a few select pieces out of the Autumn Bouquet washi tape sticker set, which is also from the washi tape shop. Not all of it fits with my colour scheme, so I'm going to use a lot of the same stickers over and over again because they are the pink and the blue ones, or the white ones as the case may be. But I'm going to use a combination of the wreaths and the individual floral stickers to line along the edge of what's going to be my page edge here. So if you're not familiar with the concept of a Dutch door in bullet journaling, it's when you cut away part of a page to reveal the page that's behind it. Sometimes it's a way to make a page even more functional than it would have been without removing some of the paper, which I know sounds backwards, but trust me, it works. But mine is going to be purely decorative. I just wanted to do something pretty because it's the beginning of a new year, and that is when I am motivated to do the pretty things. Going into this setup, I was really thinking of fairy tales, and in the top of the screen I've actually got a little box of fairy stickers that just didn't quite fit with the colour scheme. I'd been planning to use them for this setup, but it didn't work out for this one, so you won't see me actually put any fairies in my January, even though that was my intention. So let's just think of this as the garden where the fairies live, but they're invisible to us because we are just humans. It's time to make this Dutch door quote page really pop, so I'm grabbing a craft knife. I get questions about this sometimes. I assume you can just buy them at craft stores. I actually got mine at a hardware store, Bunnings, which is like our big, gigantic warehouse hardware store in Australia. And of course you'll want to put something behind the page to protect the rest of your book as well, so I'm using a cutting mat to protect the rest of my pages. And I'm just cutting around, kind of vaguely around the edge of the floral shapes of the stickers so that the bit of paper that they're attached to stay, so it's nice and sturdy. And in the end it gives us this lovely, wiggly, natural finish sort of page edge. And I'm jumping in with some scissors just to round out a few of the sharper edges so I don't give myself paper cuts throughout January while I use this. That's actually it for the cover page, title page, quote page situation, but I will show you after we set this one up. I'll flip back so you can see what the Dutch door effect is like once everything's in place. The two washi tapes I'm laying down at the moment are also from the elegant floral pastel washi tape set, and the blue one has beautiful handwritten text on it. I like that kind of contributes to my storybook kind of feeling. It's all affirmation, so if I read to you from the washi tape, it says, "Learn from the mistakes of others. You can't live long enough to make them all yourself. The art of knowing is knowing what to ignore. Create your own sunshine," stuff like that. It goes on, so I like that the text is positive but also very subtle. This is my calendar spread, so this is where I do all of my forward planning, and Mitsu's come to inspect and make sure that it's all going the way he wants it to go, which is dinner. I wanted to keep all the lines in this setup looking really soft, so I haven't used a ruler, and I'm also using the warm grey Tombow Dual Tip N89. I'm using the bullet end to draw out all of my lines for this setup so that they're visible but they're subtle. They kind of fade into the page a little bit. And I'm using 3 other Tombow dual brush pens based around the colours that are in the washi tapes as my accent colours. So the pink is the 761, the purple is the 620, and the blue is the 491. I'm also going to take a piece of paper out of this set that I got from Stationery Pal recently, and I'm just going to use my craft knife because I can't find my big scissors at the moment and the little ones are too difficult to use for extensive use like this, to cut these into strips so that I can use them strategically around my layouts. As much as I said one of my words for this setup was florid, I didn't want things to be too overwhelming either, so I'm making sure to leave a little bit of white space on each page so that things can still breathe and feel calming, because nobody likes to start a new year feeling stressed and hectic. So I always like to try to use a little bit of the same elements above and below when it's a page like this, like the calendar, so I'm using some of the paper above the calendar on the left side and below the calendar on the right side to try and keep things looking balanced to your eye. These frames are also from the same washi tape set, and I find these the most difficult ones to use as part of this set, but I managed to work it in on a couple of the pages, so I'm adding a second little January heading up here with a Pigma Micron, my very favourite fine liners. Speaking of stuff I'm using, if you'd like to get links to any of the things I'm using in this video, I will make sure they are all in the description for you. Some of them are affiliate links, so I might make a little bit of money if you make a purchase off those links, which is always highly appreciated. And of course, we've got to fill in the numbers for each day of the week, and we need to add an initial above each of the columns so that I know where my Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays sit. Now here's the whole effect. How beautiful is that Dutch door? I just love the way it all lines up, and I think that would look great with tabs too if you were doing waterfall tabs. But we're going to move on to my goals and favorites page, and I usually have been doing this in recent months with a goals, musings, and currently page all together on the one page. The musing section is kind of just like a brain dump, but I wanted to give it its own page this time because I really enjoyed using it through November and December, so I thought maybe time to give myself a little bit more space and really have fun with that. The favourite section is for future me, so I can look back and think about all of the things that I liked at this time in my life when I am older and maybe like different things. And the goals section is where I break down my overall full year goals into those more manageable steps so that I can try and stay on track for the big New Year's resolutions so that I don't forget about them through the year. It doesn't always happen, and I try not to be hard on myself about that because people can also change through a year, so therefore goals can change through a year, but I like to have a record of the stuff, and breaking it down into smaller steps does make it more achievable. So if you have goals in your beginning of your bullet journal, I recommend also having a goals section in your monthlies so that you can keep yourself on task, kinda. You know, in beautiful old storybooks how they have maybe 2 facing pages with illustrations on both sides, kind of inside of frame. That's what I was going for with the layout for this one. I'm not sure if it totally translated, but I think it's pretty, so it doesn't matter, and it will work just fine for me through January. If you're enjoying the video so far and you're new to my channel, then maybe consider hitting subscribe while you're here. I'd love to share some more stuff with you. I post new videos every week, so I will have plenty of bullet journal and stationery inspiration coming your way through 2023, and I'd love to have you here with me on my little channel. And if you're interested to see how I actually use the layouts that you watch me set up here, I do post flip through videos once I finish a journal so you can see what everything looked like after the pen. But if you can't wait that long because they're typically only every 6 months or so, jump onto my Instagram. I am at erinsmith.art, and I post kind of the journal in progress stuff behind the scenes that you don't see so much here on YouTube over there. We're getting into trackers now, so this next couple of pages will be my habit tracker on the left and mood tracker on the right. I've set up this little calendar template for myself with Canva that I use in tandem with my little PHOMEMO Bluetooth thermal printer here. I do this all the time. My calendar might look a bit weird to you for this month. Yes, there is only 2 weeks on it. That's because I'm going on holidays halfway through January and I will not be taking this journal with me, so there's no point in setting up trackers for things that I will not be tracking while I am in another country on another continent. Which is the beauty of the bullet journaling system as far as I'm concerned, is that you can adapt things to fit your circumstances, and when your circumstances change, you can adapt them again until everything is just the way you need it to be, and I think that's incredible. Originally, I was planning to have my habit tracker heading in the middle of the page, but I've realized after printing these little calendars out that that's not quite going to work this time, so I'm sketching it out in pencil again at the top, and you can kind of see how these flourishes come together, where you can write out your word first and then add the flourishes later, playing around with where they sit until you make something that you like. I was probably rushing this one a little bit, so it's probably not my best work, and that does tend to happen as I go through a layout. I get a bit lazier as I get towards the later pages and things start to lose their prettiness a little bit, but I'm very happy with the January heading back on that first page, so let's just pretend that this one looks amazing. I think a smarter way to do this would have been to stick all the habit tracker little calendars down first and then add the header at the top, because I've actually ended up leaving a bit of a gap in between the habit trackers and the header that is a bit uncomfortable, but that's okay, that's what stickers are for. We'll just fill a couple of strategically placed stickers into that space and pretend like that was the plan all along. Also, I got these gorgeous floral and bottle PET stickers on AliExpress a little while ago, that big blue one, and I'm obsessed with them, but they are so large, they're a little bit difficult to use in your journal without cutting things down. So I'm trying to incorporate them into this layout since I don't need to use as much space as I maybe normally would. So I'm gonna add one to the mood tracker page here, and we'll add some more decoration onto this one first before we jump in with the functional part, because this one is a bit more flexible than the habit tracker side. This is one of my go-to mood tracker situations. If I don't know what to do, this is typically what I end up doing. So I'm using a pencil to sketch out spaces for 14 blobs on the page, and I'm going to color in those blobs just in a random kind of shape sort of way with those 3 tombos, the pretty colors that I was talking about earlier. And for each day that I need to track my mood, I will draw one of these little doodles that I'm currently drawing here. I've got a little leafy situation, this one's a rose, and there'll be another different kind of leafy doodle next to that. I've assigned a mood to each of those, just really basic, happy, meh, and sad. And for each day I will draw the appropriate doodle in the blob, and that's how I will track my mood for the month of January, or at least the first 2 weeks of January. And the best part is that even if you had a really bad month, you still have something really pretty at the end of it, so that's always nice. Before we get into the content planner spread, I want to tell you a bit about Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community and the sponsor of this video, and they have thousands of classes ready to inspire you on your creative journey. Whether you want to level up an existing skill or try something new, Skillshare has the class for you. Up until now, I've pretty much taught myself hand lettering, but I took Doris Fulgrave's Skillshare class Flourishing Calligraphy, Analyzing Principles and Examples recently, and I think my January theme is testament to the fact that I'm already using the skills I learned. I always thought I didn't have time to sit down and learn all the things I wanted to learn because there's so much I want to learn, but it's really easy to fit Skillshare into your lifestyle because each class is divided into sections, so you can work on a longer class over a couple of days, or you can choose a shorter class and knock out the whole thing in one go. The Flourishing Calligraphy class was only half an hour in length, and it was so easy to follow that I felt confident enough to start using the techniques I learned straight away, so I really can't overstate how helpful it was for me. If picking up a new hobby is on your resolution list for 2023, you need Skillshare in your life. The first 1,000 people to use my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Make growth a priority in 2023 and start learning now with Skillshare. Alright, let's do this content planner. This was actually a big one for me for this month because I'm scheduling all of my social media content so that everything keeps ticking while I'm away on holidays. So I left myself a lot of space to write. These boxes are 6 spaces by 6 spaces, so there's heaps of room inside. Again, I'm using that Tombow N89 to keep all my lines nice and soft and also consistent with the other pages where I have lines, so that I'm using the same thing for lines all the way through. That's an easy way to keep things consistent, is to just use the same item for the same purpose throughout a whole setup. And this time, rather than leaving a space in between each of the rows so that I could put the number above that, I'm going to just add the number in the top right corner of each of the boxes, and I've left an extra space at the top, and that's going to be where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday goes, so that I know what's going on. I prefer to start my weeks on Mondays, which is what I've done for most of my calendar setups. I don't know if you noticed before, if you had very sharp, keen eyes, and I forgot to mention it at the time, but on my habit tracker calendars that I just did 2 weeks of, rather than having 3 weeks worth of rows, which may have balanced the page out better actually now that I'm thinking about it, and having a bunch of blank space in them because January starts on a Sunday, I switched that one so that just my habit tracker calendars start on Sundays, just to save a bit of my printer paper, really, and my sanity, because it would have been a lot of empty space that I didn't actually need to use. So if you noticed that, have 10 points and a cookie. I also wanted to mention that I need a content planner because I keep a lot of social media accounts running at any one time. Obviously, I have this YouTube channel that I need to plan for, and there's also a blog that's associated with it as well, my website. Of course, there's also my bullet journal Instagram, which I have mentioned earlier in the video. But besides that, I also run a photography business that's like my main thing that I do, and this is my fun side hobby thing that I do, the bullet journal thing. So I also have a blog and an Instagram account for that, and it's just a lot of content to keep track of, which is why I need to write it down and get it out of my head. If you're only doing one social media account, you may also want to plan your content out ahead of time. I think it's a great strategy, but you also might not need to. So just because I have a content planner doesn't necessarily mean that you will need one. If you think that sounds like a lot of work, you don't have to do it. I was determined to fit more of these bottle stickers into this layout, so I'm cutting this one down to make it fit, and I don't mind if it covers a little bit of the calendar, that's totally fine. And my other favorite trick, if you have a washi tape that's too wide for the area, just tear it. I've done it so many times for this video already, but I'm gonna keep doing it more, so I figured it was worth mentioning. This washi tape is really wide, so I'm just gonna tear it down the side. I'm kind of doing it in thirds here, so I'll have 2/3 of the washi that I'm gonna stick down onto this content planner, and I'm actually sticking the other bit that I tore off down back onto the backing tape. These washi tapes come on a backing tape, not all of them do, but you could stick it to just the edge of your desk or something if you don't have a sticker book or something similar that you could use to keep its stickiness. Just have it on hand so that you can use it later. I like to reuse all of my things wherever I can. My next page is my spending log, where I write down all of the things I spend money on throughout the month. And I know that sounds really dry and boring, but I actually really enjoy doing it. Go figure. Because I'm a sole trader, some of my expenses are business related, so it's handy for me to be able to keep track of that. I categorize everything so I can, at the end of the year, look back over all of my business expenses, and of course I have to do that in a spreadsheet for tax purposes as well. So, you know, I do also keep a digital record. It's not just my bullet journal for all of my bookkeeping, I swear. But all my discretionary spending goes in here too. So if I buy lunch out with friends, or I decide I want a new pair of shoes or something like that, I can keep track of how often that happens and keep myself accountable and try not to spend too much money, because there is always something to save for. And you can check out my 2023 bullet journal setup if you want to see how all of this data comes together into my cash flow tracker at the very beginning of the book. It's really fun. And I kind of had one page left over, so I've decided to just do a little bit of decoration around the edges of this one and leave it as an open, vague, however I need to use it at the time, Europe trip planning page, just so that I can keep lists here of what I need to pack or anything along those lines. I just didn't want one random unexplained blank page, so, you know, I guess I could have done like a quote page, this page has been intentionally left blank or whatever, but no, it was an accident, so Europe trip planning it is. And we've only got one spread left, but this one's gonna be a little bit complex because I wanna do another Dutch door. So I'm busting out my craft knife and my cutting mat again. With 160 GSM paper like this, I recommend that you score it twice to get the cut to go all the way through the page. But if you're using a thinner page notebook, you might not need to put as much pressure or go as hard as I did. I stole this layout from Anna from Journal Away. Her account is one of my absolute favorite bullet journaling accounts to follow. And she did a weekly setup where you'll see how the layout comes together. I'm actually adding more decoration than she did because once again, I only need 2 weeks worth of weeklies for January because I'm not gonna use the other ones because I'm not gonna be here. This Dutch door situation that I've got happening in the middle is again purely decorative, whereas Anna's was more functional than mine. And if you're looking for it on her Instagram or her YouTube, it was from her November pages, just in case you're wondering where to find it. So the space that you can see when the Dutch door is folded down flat, the space that peeks out on the left and the right sides, is going to be where my weeklies kind of sit. So that's where I will write down any events that happen on those days. And the space that's hidden under the flap is where my task list goes. And Anna had an extra week on the underside of the flap of the Dutch door. Mine is just more washi tape because I only need to do 2 weeks. And I kind of thought, let's not feel bad about using up extra paper that if I wasn't going on holidays, I would have used for my weekly. Let's just do something a bit special and have a good time with it and really enjoy those 2 weeks with my journal before I leave it behind and abandon it for another month. I feel like my explanation's not making much sense, but you'll see as it comes together, I promise. So each of these spaces is for a different day of the week throughout January. I like to start my weeks on Mondays and I like to keep my weeks together. So mine will actually start on January 2nd rather than the 1st because that is the first Monday of the year. So I'll have one box space for the heading, which is where the purple is going in here, and then there are 4 spaces under that for each day, and I'm adding one more purple one at the bottom because I made a mistake with my spacing, but I think it looks nice to have a little bookend on the bottom there. And I'm doing the exact same thing on the facing page, just in reverse, so they're kind of a mirror image of each other. And this space here is going to be my task list, and I decided I wanted it to be a little bit fancy, so I've left a 2 space gap at the outside of the corners, and I'm adding a little curved line to join those up so that it looks a bit cute and beveled and nice. And with that, I am fully set up for January 2023, which I kind of can't wrap my head around. Thank you so much for planning with me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to live in this layout, even if it is only for 2 weeks. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and stick around for my next video in a week. And if you want to follow along with my Europe adventures, I will be posting some of it to my Instagram stories, so jump onto Instagram. I am again at erinsmith.art, and I'd love to be your friend there too. I hope January treats you wonderfully, and I will see you again for another video in a week. Until then, take care.